What's going on, guys? My name is Richard Moglen and welcome back to the TraderLion channel. Now, a few weeks ago, I made a video on the 10-week moving average, which is the 50-day moving average on the daily chart. And that is linked down below in the description, popping up right now if you haven't watched it yet. But anyway, I think that's an amazing moving average as a frame of reference and is perfect for people who are more kind of longer term focused, like position traders or investors. Now, today in this video, I'll be kind of continuing on with that same theme, and I'll be discussing the 21 EMA, which is better suited for swing traders and anybody who's a little bit quicker in the markets. And in this video, we'll be talking about how to use it as a guide for swing trades, to manage trades base to base, how to determine whether a stock is extended using this moving average, and also how to use it to determine that overall market trend. So we'll be covering a lot today with a ton of examples. So if you do enjoy this video, please go ahead and take the time right now to leave me a like down below and subscribe if you haven't yet to the TraderLion channel. So with that said, we've got a chart up here with NEO. And actually, before we get into it, I do want to clarify that even though we are talking specifically about the 21 EMA in this video, if you like the 20 EMA, the 23 EMA, the 20-day simple, all of those are going to give you pretty similar results when it comes to this time frame. And basically, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. It's all about personal preference. I like personally the 21 EMA. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right into the video and talk about how to use this moving average to manage swing trades. So first things first, I love to use this particular moving average when it comes to the faster moving companies, the recent IPOs, the potential true market leaders that can really trend and move. And we've got an example here with NEO in 2020. And from this point, from this breakout, from this base, we increased 1,000% without ever really closing below this moving average. We just kind of continued to consolidate into that moving average, drift into it, and then rally and expand back and continue that trend. And that's what I love to see with true market leaders. I love to see kind of drifts back into the moving average, a little bit of consolidation, a shelf to form, and then a volatility contraction pattern, an undercut and reclaim, some other type of setup inside week and up off that moving average. And that can often lead to a really nice swing trade. And if we get a trending market like we had in 2020, a really nice move overall. So that's where this really shines. And it's a great overall indicator of the trend of the stock. You can see that we basically go from base to base following this moving average. We get a little bit of a consolidation. And then finally, when we break this moving average for good and start living below it, it basically confirms it to the downside. When we start that downtrend, we get a little bit of an uptrend here, but we basically continue this overall downtrend where we get rallies back into the moving average, and then we bounce down from that line. So there's a great overall indicator of trend. And during uptrends, it loves to respect the moving average, and also in downtrends as well. And this isn't just a 2020 or 2021 occurrence. If you go back and study history and look at those high flyers, true market leaders, they love to trend and respect this moving average as they go from base to base. And I think if you actually go ahead and read John Boyk's books, he likes to use this moving average and plot them on charts to show how you can really use them to manage trades. And even here during 2022, when a lot of the leaders have been energy names, you can see that this stock, XOM, ExxonMobil, loves to respect the moving average during uptrends, during downtrends, and also during its recent run. It's gotten a little bit choppy here, a little bit more volatile, but going to BTU, you can see it's respected it here, here. So up the right-hand side of bases, as they move out of bases, that's a great way to use this. Oxy as well, really nice respect in these areas. You can see how we get some pullbacks and then a sharp response from that moving average, a little bit of a consolidation, expansion, and basically resuming that trend off that moving average. So there's a great tool to use to enter stocks as well as manage positions. So to answer that first point, how do we use this moving average to enter trades and manage positions? Well, we've got a chart here of AMD, and this is pretty much textbook what I love to see. I'm looking for a move up the right-hand side, a little bit of a consolidation, tightness into that moving average on declining volume, and then a push through that pivot right near that moving average. And then you can basically use this moving average to trail your stop and basically use it to sell your positions on one close below, two closes below, or if it gets a little bit extended from that moving average. So this with AMD, we've got this textbook pivot right at this area, buy it through this level. And then once that moving average kind of crosses your buy point, you can transition your stop loss to that moving average on a closing basis. So that's pretty much textbook how I like to use the 21 EMA. And then you look for two decisive closes below that moving average. So that would be actually right here. So at this point, you've gone from 107 to about 137, a really nice trade. And from this point, we started a longer term consolidation. So from this base, we've gone to another base, and then we actually get a failure and the trade is over. And if you go back and study history and look at stocks as a trend from base to base, this moving average, the 21 EMA, loves to keep you in there pretty much for that entire duration as the stock starts a move and then starts another consolidation. And I mentioned something there about extensions from the moving average, and this is another way that you can use that 21 EMA as a guide and reference point. So first things first, you want to kind of keep track of how far historically the stock likes to trend above and get above that moving average. So back in this area for AMD, we got all the way 20% above that 21 EMA. And then here at this point, if we take a look at this extension, at this height, we were over that 20% mark. So this is a time where you might want to sell into strength because historically, this stock doesn't get much more than 20% above that moving average. I know in this area, it feels great. You're up a bunch from this buy point, and you think the stock is just going to take off and really accelerate to the upside. But keep in mind context, keep in mind the historical movement of the stock price, and keep an eye on that overall extension. And I actually have a point on my data bar here that always tells me how far the stock is above that moving average. So right now we're 6.7% above this reference point. So keep an eye on this reference point. How far are you above that moving average? And take a look at the context. How far does the stock like to trend above it? Looking back to the left. And if we get 30, 40, 50% above that moving average, maybe it's time to sell half, sell a portion, sell it all if you're really a short-term swing trader, and look for another entry after we get another consolidation. And the last way that I like to use this moving average is to determine the overall trend of the market. And it's very simple. If we're above a rising 21 EMA, we are in an uptrend along that time frame. If we're below a declining 21 EMA, we're basically in a downtrend on that time frame. And if we're just kind of chopping around that moving average and there's not much respect, there's a lot of volatility, we're just basically consolidating, forming a base, and we got to wait for a new trend. And often we get a pop above this moving average. It often coincides with an Oliver Kell wedge pop, and that can start a really strong move that we can trade and look for individual stocks to trade during that period. So this moving average on the indexes, the QQQ, the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, often we see during uptrends, it is support, and then during downtrends, it is resistance, as we can see right here. And most recently, you can see we started a new trend. This is actually the fall through day on the SPX. If we go ahead and bring up that chart right here, and you can see we had a really nice move from this point. And now potentially we're getting a little bit stretched from that moving average. So we'll have to see whether there's some consolidation in order, but we're also acting super strong with some nice closes and just breaking above this level. But I would like to see a handle, let that moving average catch up to price and kind of offer support once again. So with that said, that's basically the main ways that I like to use the moving average, basically as a trend indicator, a guide for position management in stocks, looking for two closes below that moving average after you enter up the right-hand side, and also as an indicator of the overall trend of the market. So with that said, let's just finish things off with a bunch of stock charts. Peloton really respected that 21 EMA during its 2020 run, and also to the downside here in 2022. Shopify, back when it was kind of a faster mover here, really respected the moving average, then got a little bit choppy here, and now it's respecting it to the downside. You can see it kind of rally back into that area and then was rejected down, and now we're back above and actually find support at the moving average right here as it kind of sets up here and starts to push up the bottom. BTU, we talked about, nice trend over that moving average. NVIDIA, back above that moving average. This loves to kind of burst above it and start a nice trend and then go base to base. You can see this is actually a really good example, but we've got a longer term basing structure. You buy the wedge pop above the 21 EMA here or the handle here, and then just kind of manage the trade until it kind of breaks through it and starts another basing pattern. Oxy, we talked about, nice respect for that 21 EMA. Even today, it's bouncing off that moving average, so we'll have to see what happens and if we kind of continue upward from this point or if we need some more consolidation or even undercut this moving average. CF, also respect off that 21 EMA, although it did have a big undercut intraday. MOS, similar action. ASAN, back in this period, really respected that moving average. It really got tight against this and had a huge pop on earnings and then started its last kind of trend up towards all-time highs. DOCN, really nice respect for this moving average during the strong uptrend. And actually, even during its downtrend, nice respect to the downside, of course, finding resistance there multiple occasions as it basically pulled back all the way from 113 down to those 60s and 50s. Zim, a little less respect, although on a closing basis, pretty good. Doesn't really like to live below it, but I think the 50-day actually works a little bit better for the stock. Moderna to the downside, for sure, and nice respect during this strong move into the end of 2021. SI, really powerful move here, respecting it here as well as here. I love looking for these shelves back into the moving average and then buying an undercut and reclaim, breakout from that tight contraction against that moving average. It really just allows you to manage risk really tightly. Tesla, also very nice respect back in the 2020 timeframe for this moving average, basically kept you in during these moves from base to base. NEO, we already talked about. AMD, we covered already. And lastly, D-Dog, really nice respect during this strong move. So overall, that's pretty much it for this video. Remember that this moving average is just a guide, a reference point. And if you use the 20, the 23, it doesn't really matter. Find what works for you. So overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please go ahead and leave a like down below and subscribe if you're new to the channel. And I'll see you guys in future videos. Thanks.